What would you do if your own father looked you in the eye and called you a scammer? This is the story of Danny Miller, a 17-year-old boy who had to choose between finishing high school or saving his dying mother's life. His mother needed $2 million for cancer treatment. Money they didn't have. Money they would never have. Unless Danny could find his biological father. The father who abandoned them before Danny was even born. The father who built a $3 billion empire while his son grew up in poverty. The father who donated millions to charity while his own child ate generic cereal for dinner. When Danny finally tracks down billionaire Robert Miller, what happens next will shock you. The confrontation at a luxury charity gala goes horribly wrong. Security throws Danny out not once, but twice. His father refuses to believe Danny is his son and calls him a homeless con artist trying to steal from successful people. But this story is just beginning. Because what Robert Miller doesn't know is that his rejection will set off a chain of events that will change both their lives forever. Events that seem almost too perfect to be coincidence. Events that make you believe in justice. Danny will sacrifice everything for his mother. Robert will discover that karma has a way of teaching lessons you never wanted to learn. And eventually, these two men will meet again under circumstances that neither of them could have imagined. Sometimes the most beautiful relationships begin with the words, "I'm sorry." 17-year-old Danny Miller clutches a wrinkled photograph in his trembling hands. The image shows a man in an expensive suit standing next to a gleaming Rolls-Royce. This stranger is his father, a billionaire construction mogul worth $3 billion. A man who has never seen his son's face. Danny has never owned anything that costs more than $50. His shoes have holes in them. His jacket came from a thrift store. But none of that matters now, because the woman who raised him single-handedly is dying. Lisa Miller lies in a hospital bed 3 miles away. Stage 4 pancreatic cancer. The doctors give her 2 months to live, unless she gets an experimental treatment that costs exactly $2 million. Money that might as well be $2 trillion for a family that struggles to pay rent. Danny stares up at the towering glass building before him. Miller Construction Empire. The name etched in gold letters across the entrance. His father built this empire from nothing. Started with a single hammer and a pickup truck 30 years ago. Now he owns half the skyline in the city. The irony cuts deep. Danny shares this man's last name. His DNA. His stubborn determination. But they have never spoken a single word to each other. Danny pulls out his phone and reads the text message one more time. The message that changed everything. A private investigator his mother hired with her last savings found Robert Miller. Found the man who disappeared the moment he learned Lisa was pregnant. The message contains an address. Miller Construction Headquarters. And a schedule. Robert Miller will be attending a charity gala tonight in the building's penthouse. A gala raising money for underprivileged children. The cosmic joke almost makes Danny laugh. Almost. He walks through the revolving glass doors. The lobby overwhelms him. Marble floors that reflect like mirrors. Crystal chandeliers worth more than most people's houses. Security guards in suits that cost more than Danny's entire wardrobe. Danny approaches the reception desk. The woman behind it looks like she stepped out of a magazine. Perfect hair. Perfect makeup. Perfect smile that disappears the moment she sees Danny's appearance. "Can I help you?" Her tone suggests she would rather not. "I need to speak with Robert Miller." Danny's voice cracks slightly. He clears his throat and tries again. "It's important." The receptionist looks Danny up and down. Takes in his worn sneakers. His faded jeans. His nervous energy. "Do you have an appointment?" "No, but I'm his son." The words hang in the air. The receptionist blinks twice. Then she laughs. Actually laughs out loud. "Sir, I'm going to need you to leave the building. Now. You don't understand. My mother is dying. I need to speak with him about." Security. 2 large men in black suits appear within seconds. They move toward Danny with practiced efficiency. Danny steps backward, his heart pounding. "Wait. Please. Just tell him Danny Miller is here. Tell him Lisa Miller's son needs to see him. 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking." The security guards grab Danny by both arms. He doesn't resist. He learned long ago that fighting only makes things worse when you have nothing and everyone else has everything. They escort him toward the exit. Past the marble. Past the chandeliers. Past the perfect people in their perfect clothes living their perfect lives. "If you come back, we'll call the police," one of the guards says as they push Danny through the revolving door. Danny stands on the sidewalk outside. People in expensive cars drive past without looking. The city moves around him like he doesn't exist, like he never existed. But Danny Miller didn't survive 17 years of poverty by giving up easily. His mother taught him that. She worked 3 jobs to keep them fed. She never complained, never gave up, never stopped believing that tomorrow could be better than today. Danny pulls out his phone and searches for information about the charity gala. The event starts at 7 o'clock. Black tie required. Tickets cost $5,000 each, a number that makes Danny's stomach drop. He has $43 in his bank account. Danny walks 12 blocks to the public library. He sits at a computer and researches everything he can find about Robert Miller. News articles, business profiles, social media posts. The man who abandoned him has lived a very public life. Robert Miller started Miller Construction at age 22, the same age Danny's mother was when she had Danny. Robert built his first house with borrowed money and determination. The business grew slowly at first, then exploded when he landed a contract to build a shopping mall. Danny reads article after article. Robert Miller donates millions to charity every year. He funds scholarships for disadvantaged youth. He builds playgrounds in poor neighborhoods. He gives speeches about the importance of family values. The hypocrisy burns in Danny's chest. This man preaches about helping children while his own son grew up eating generic cereal for dinner. Danny learns that Robert Miller remarried 15 years ago. His wife, Catherine, is a former model who now runs a nonprofit organization. They live in a mansion worth $28 million. They have no children together. Danny stares at a photograph of Robert and Catherine at a charity auction. They're smiling, holding hands, looking like the perfect power couple, like people who have never known what it feels like to choose between paying rent or buying groceries. The library closes at 6 o'clock. Danny walks outside into the evening air. The charity gala starts in 1 hour. He has no invitation, no money, no connections, no plan. But he has something else, something that money cannot buy. Desperation mixed with love, a dying mother who needs a miracle, and the stubborn refusal to accept defeat. Danny walks back toward the Miller Construction building. The evening sun reflects off the glass windows like fire. Cars worth more than houses pull up to the entrance. Men in tuxedos and women in evening gowns step out onto red carpet. Danny watches from across the street, studies the patterns, the security, the timing. He notices something important. The parking garage has a separate entrance. Service vehicles come and go through a side door. Danny circles the building. In the alley behind the tower, he finds what he's looking for. Catering trucks. Staff members in black uniforms carrying trays and equipment. The organized chaos of event preparation. Danny approaches a young woman carrying a box of champagne glasses. She looks about his age, tired, overworked, like someone who understands what it means to need money. "Excuse me, are you hiring temporary help for tonight?" She stops and looks at Danny. "You looking for work?" "I need to get inside that building. My mother is dying and I need to speak with Robert Miller. Just for 2 minutes. The woman sets down the box. Her expression softens. "What's your name?" "Danny. I'm Jessica. My mom had cancer last year. Couldn't afford treatment either." She pauses. "Wait here." Jessica disappears into the catering truck. Danny stands in the alley, his heart hammering against his ribs. This could be his only chance. His mother's only chance. Jessica returns with a black uniform shirt and a name tag. "Put this on. Carry trays. Keep your head down. You get caught. You don't know me." Danny changes shirts behind a dumpster. The uniform is too big, but it will work. Jessica hands him a tray of champagne glasses. The penthouse elevator is restricted. You need a special key card to get up there. But the service elevator goes to every floor. Kitchen staff use it all night. Danny nods. His hands shake as he holds the tray. "Thank you. Find your dad. Save your mom." Danny walks through the service entrance. Past security guards who barely glance at him. Past kitchen staff rushing to prepare hundreds of meals. Past the marble lobby he was thrown out of 6 hours earlier. The service elevator is cramped and loud. Danny rides it to the top floor. The doors open onto organized chaos. Waiters rushing in every direction. Chefs shouting orders. Managers checking clipboards. Danny steps into the hallway. Through open doors, he can see the charity gala in full swing. Crystal chandeliers cast warm light over hundreds of guests. A string quartet plays classical music. The sound of laughter and conversation fills the air. Danny moves closer to the entrance. His champagne glasses clink softly as his hands tremble. Through the crowd, he spots him. Robert Miller stands near a window overlooking the city. He's taller than Danny expected, broader in the shoulders. His hair is silver now, but his face matches the photograph Danny has carried for 17 years. Robert wears a tuxedo that probably costs more than Danny's mother makes in 6 months. He holds a glass of wine and laughs at something a woman in diamonds says. He looks relaxed, happy, content. He looks like a man who has never lost a moment of sleep worrying about unpaid bills. Danny sets his tray on a nearby table. He walks toward his father with steady steps. The crowd parts around him. The music seems to fade. The laughter becomes distant. Robert Miller continues his conversation, unaware that his abandoned son is approaching, unaware that 17 years of separation are about to end, unaware that his life is about to change forever. Danny stops 3 feet away from the man who gave him life and then disappeared. Robert Miller turns, sensing someone watching him. Father and son lock eyes for the first time. Robert Miller looks confused, like he's trying to remember where he's seen Danny before, like he's searching for a connection that should be obvious. Danny opens his mouth to speak, to say the words he's rehearsed 1,000 times, to explain who he is and why he's here and what he needs. But before Danny can say anything, Robert Miller's expression changes. Confusion becomes irritation. Recognition becomes rejection. Security, Robert calls out loudly. We have an intruder. The word intruder cuts through the elegant party like a knife through silk. Conversations stop mid-sentence. Heads turn toward the commotion. The string quartet continues playing, but the music sounds hollow against the sudden tension. Danny stands frozen as security guards push through the crowd. The same 2 men who threw him out earlier recognize him immediately. Their faces show no surprise, only professional annoyance at having to deal with the same problem twice in one day. Wait, Danny says desperately. Please, just listen to me. Robert Miller steps closer, his face twisted with disgust. I don't know how you got in here, but you picked the wrong man to scam. I'm not scamming anyone. I'm your son. The words echo across the penthouse. Guests whisper among themselves. Phones appear as people start recording. Robert's wife, Catherine, hurries over, her diamond earrings catching the chandelier light. Robert, what's happening? Robert never takes his eyes off Danny. Some homeless kid trying to pull a con. Claims he's my son. Robert laughs bitterly. Do I look like someone who would abandon my own child? The irony hits Danny like a physical blow. This man who donates millions to help children just called his actual son a homeless con artist. The security guards grab Danny's arms again. But this time, Danny finds his voice. His mother's voice. The voice of 17 years of struggle and sacrifice. My mother is Lisa Miller. You met her at college. You dated for 2 years. She got pregnant and you disappeared the same week. Robert's face changes. Just slightly. A flicker of something that might be recognition. Or might be fear. You left her with nothing. Danny continues, his voice growing stronger as the guards drag him toward the elevator. She worked 3 jobs to raise me. She never said a bad word about you. Not once. She told me you were probably just scared. Robert, Catherine's voice is sharp now, demanding answers. The elevator doors open. Danny has seconds before they close forever. Before his mother's last hope disappears. She's dying, Danny shouts. Stage 4 cancer. She needs $2 million for treatment. I'm not asking for myself. I'm asking you to save the woman you once loved. The elevator doors close. Danny's last image of his father is Robert Miller standing perfectly still among the chaos, wine glass frozen halfway to his lips. The guards escort Danny through the service exit into the alley, where Jessica waits by the catering truck. How did it go? Danny hands her back the uniform shirt. His hand shakes so badly, he can barely unbutton it. He called me a homeless con artist. Jessica's face falls. I'm sorry. Danny walks away without another word. He has no more energy for gratitude or conversation. He has used up everything he had just to get this far. Danny takes the bus back to the hospital. The 40-minute ride passes in a blur of streetlights and regret. He replays the encounter over and over. Searches for words he should have said. Arguments he should have made. Ways he could have made his father believe. But deep down, Danny knows the truth. Robert Miller didn't refuse to believe Danny was his son. Robert Miller chose not to believe. There's a difference. One is about evidence. The other is about character. Danny finds his mother sleeping in her hospital bed. The machines beep softly around her. Her face looks gray under the fluorescent lights. She's lost 20 pounds in the past month. Her wedding ring slides around her finger now like a hula hoop. Danny sits in the plastic chair beside her bed. The same chair he's occupied every evening for 3 weeks. The chair that will become his second home until the end. Danny. Lisa's voice is barely a whisper. I'm here, Mom. Lisa opens her eyes. Even in the dim light, Danny can see how much effort it takes. How did it go? Danny considers lying. Considers telling her that Robert Miller promised to help. That the money is coming. That she's going to be fine. But Lisa Miller raised her son to tell the truth, even when it hurts. He doesn't want to know us, Mom. I'm sorry. Lisa closes her eyes. A single tear runs down her cheek. It's not your fault, baby. I could try again. Maybe if I... No. Lisa's voice carries a strength that surprises them both. You've done enough. More than enough. Danny stays until visiting hours end. He kisses his mother's forehead and promises to return in the morning. The same promise he's made every night. The same promise he'll keep until he can't. Danny takes 2 buses home to their apartment. A 1-bedroom place in the part of town where ambulance sirens are background music. Danny sleeps on a couch that came from a garage sale. His mother's medical bills cover the coffee table like snow. Danny lies awake staring at the water stain on the ceiling. The stain looks like a map of some country he'll never visit. He thinks about Robert Miller sleeping in his $28 million mansion. Probably on Egyptian cotton sheets. Probably not thinking about the son he rejected twice in one day. Danny makes a decision. If Robert Miller won't help his dying mother, then Danny will find another way. He'll work harder, save faster, perform miracles if necessary. Danny wakes up before sunrise and starts applying for every job he can find. Fast food restaurants, grocery stores, gas stations, warehouses, construction sites, anywhere that pays hourly wages to desperate people. Most places won't hire a 17-year-old high school student with no experience. But Danny finds 3 jobs willing to take a chance. Pizza delivery driver, dishwasher at a truck stop diner, weekend lawn maintenance for a landscaping company. Danny quits high school the next Monday. He tells his guidance counselor he's taking care of family responsibilities. She tries to talk him out of it. Explains how dropping out will limit his future opportunities. Danny doesn't tell her that his future doesn't matter if his mother doesn't have one. Danny works 18 hours a day, 7 days a week. He delivers pizzas from 6 a.m. to 2 p.m., washes dishes from 3 p.m. to 11 p.m., mows lawns on weekends. His hands develop permanent calluses. His back aches constantly. He loses 15 pounds in the first month. Danny saves every penny he can. He eats 1 meal a day. He walks everywhere to save bus fare. He hasn't bought new clothes since his mother got sick. He calculates obsessively. At his current rate, he'll have enough money for his mother's treatment in approximately 47 years. The math is impossible. The situation is hopeless. But Danny keeps working anyway because stopping means accepting defeat. And Lisa Miller didn't raise a son who accepts defeat. Meanwhile, across the city, Robert Miller's life begins to unravel in ways that seem almost supernatural. The first sign appears 1 week after the charity gala. Miller Construction's biggest project, a luxury apartment complex worth $200 million, develops serious structural problems. The foundation cracks during a routine inspection. Engineers discover that corners were cut during construction. Cheap materials were used instead of what was specified in the contracts. Robert Miller built his empire on a simple philosophy: maximize profits by minimizing costs. Use cheaper materials when possible. Pay workers less than competitors. Finish projects faster by skipping unnecessary safety measures. For 30 years, this approach made him rich. But structural integrity works like karma. Eventually, compromises catch up with reality. The apartment complex has to be demolished. Miller Construction faces lawsuits from investors. The city launches an investigation into all of Robert's projects. Local news stations run stories about shoddy construction and safety violations. The second sign comes 2 weeks later. Miller Construction's workers go on strike. They haven't received paychecks in 6 weeks. Robert has been using payroll money to cover legal fees and emergency repairs on other projects. 300 construction workers gather outside Miller Construction headquarters. They carry signs demanding their wages. They chant slogans about fair treatment. Local news cameras broadcast their protests live. One worker speaks to reporters. His name is Frank Martinez. He's worked for Miller Construction for 12 years. He has 4 children and a mortgage. Mr. Miller drives a different luxury car every day of the week, Frank tells the cameras. Meanwhile, my family is eating cereal for dinner because I haven't been paid in 6 weeks. This isn't right. The story goes viral on social media. People share videos of Robert Miller's mansion next to interviews with his unpaid workers. The contrast is devastating. The third sign appears like dominoes falling in slow motion. Robert's business partners start backing out of deals. Banks refuse to extend his credit lines. Suppliers demand cash payments up front. The empire that took 30 years to build begins crumbling in 30 days. Robert Miller sits in his corner office, staring out at the city he helped construct. His hands shake as he reviews financial documents. His accountant has delivered the news that Robert refused to accept for months. Miller Construction is bankrupt. Completely. Irreversibly. Bankrupt. Catherine serves Robert with divorce papers on a Tuesday morning in October. She keeps the mansion, half of their remaining assets, and the Rolls-Royce. Robert keeps the debts, the lawsuits, and a one-bedroom apartment in the same part of town where his son delivers pizzas. The cosmic justice would be poetic if it weren't so brutal. Robert Miller spends his first night in the apartment staring at walls that haven't been painted in a decade. The refrigerator makes grinding noises. The heater doesn't work. The neighbors upstairs play music until 3 a.m. Robert has never been poor. He's never wondered where his next meal would come from. He's never chosen between paying rent or keeping the lights on. He's about to get a crash course in all 3. Robert's savings disappear within 2 months. Legal fees, settlement payments, basic living expenses he never had to think about before. He applies for jobs, but discovers that being a disgraced former billionaire doesn't translate well to hourly employment. Nobody wants to hire someone who made headlines for cheating workers and cutting safety corners. Robert's reputation precedes him to every interview. Employers see his name and remember the news stories. They politely decline to move forward with his application. Winter arrives early and harsh. Robert's apartment has no heat. He wears 3 sweaters indoors and can see his breath when he wakes up. He eats cheap canned soup for every meal. He discovers what generic cereal tastes like. Robert Miller becomes everything he once looked down upon. Everything he dismissed at the charity gala. A man with nothing, asking for help from people who have very little. On Christmas Eve, Robert Miller stands in line at the downtown community shelter. He hasn't eaten in 2 days. His winter coat came from a thrift store and has holes in both pockets. His shoes let in water when it rains. The shelter serves free meals to anyone who needs them. No questions asked. No judgment passed. Just warm food and basic human dignity. Robert shuffles forward in line behind dozens of other people whose society has forgotten. Men who lost jobs and couldn't find new ones. Women escaping dangerous situations. Families who fell through the cracks of an unforgiving economy. Robert reaches the front of the line. A volunteer in an apron ladles soup into a bowl and sets it on a tray with crackers and a cup of coffee. Robert mumbles, "Thank you," and finds an empty seat at a long table. The volunteer who served Robert's meal is 17 years old. He wears a name tag that says Danny. He has kind eyes and gentle hands. He treats every person in line with respect and compassion. Robert Miller eats his soup without looking up. He doesn't recognize the young man who served him. He doesn't realize that his abandoned son has been volunteering at this shelter every weekend for the past 2 years. He doesn't know that Danny Miller has been feeding homeless people the same love and care that Robert Miller denied his own son. The shelter is warm and safe. Robert Miller finishes his meal and feels grateful for the first time in months. Grateful for soup that costs nothing. Grateful for a volunteer who treated him like a human being instead of a nuisance. Robert Miller has no idea that the person showing him kindness is the same person he called a homeless con artist. The same person whose dying mother he refused to help. The same son he rejected twice without even learning his name. Sometimes karma works in mysterious ways. Sometimes it's poetry disguised as justice. And sometimes it's a 17-year-old boy ladling soup for his fallen father, showing the love that was never shown to him. The downtown community shelter becomes Robert Miller's second home. Every Tuesday and Friday evening, he joins the line of people waiting for a warm meal. The volunteers know his face now, but not his name. To them, he's just another man who fell on hard times. Another human being deserving of basic compassion. Danny Miller has been volunteering at this shelter every weekend for 2 years. It started when his mother suggested they give back to people who had even less than they did. Even while struggling to pay rent, Lisa Miller taught her son that helping others was not optional. It was what good people do. Danny doesn't recognize the gray-haired man in the worn winter coat. The man who sits alone at table 7 every Tuesday and Friday. The man who says, "Thank you," so quietly it's almost a whisper. The man who never makes eye contact with the volunteers. Robert Miller has lost 60 pounds. His expensive haircut has grown out into an unkempt mess. His face is gaunt and weathered. He looks like poverty feels. Raw, exhausted, forgotten. For 6 weeks, Danny serves soup to his father without knowing it. Robert eats meals prepared by his son's hands without recognizing him. They exist in the same space, breathing the same air, sharing the same mission of survival. But they remain strangers. Until the night, everything changes. It's a Tuesday in February, the coldest February on record. The shelter is overcrowded because the city's other warming centers are full. People sit on the floor, stand along the walls, huddle together for warmth. Danny works faster than usual, trying to serve everyone before the soup runs out. He moves down the line with practiced efficiency. Ladle, crackers, coffee. Next person. Ladle, crackers, coffee. Next person. Robert reaches the front of the line. He looks worse than usual. His cough sounds wet and painful. His hands shake as he reaches for the tray. "Are you feeling all right, sir?" Danny asks. Robert looks up. For the first time in 6 weeks, he makes eye contact with the volunteer. Something about the young man's voice sounds familiar. Something about his eyes. "I'm fine," Robert whispers. But he's not fine. He's sick and tired and running out of reasons to keep going. Danny studies Robert's face. There's something about this man that bothers him. Not bothers in a bad way. Bothers like a memory that won't surface. Like a word on the tip of his tongue. "Have we met before?" Danny asks. Robert shakes his head quickly. Too quickly. "No, I don't think so." Danny hands Robert his tray. Their fingers touch briefly. Robert's hands are ice cold despite the warm building. "There's a free clinic on Oak Street," Danny says quietly. "If you need medical attention." They don't ask for insurance or identification. Robert nods and shuffles away to table 7. His usual spot. Danny watches him go and can't shake the feeling that he knows this man from somewhere. The shelter closes at 9 o'clock. Volunteers clean tables and sweep floors. Danny stacks chairs and wipes down surfaces. He's exhausted. He delivered pizzas for 8 hours before coming here. Tomorrow he'll work a double shift at the diner. Danny is putting away cleaning supplies when he hears coughing from the back room. Violent, painful coughing that sounds like it might never stop. Danny follows the sound. He finds Robert Miller collapsed on the floor of the men's bathroom. Conscious, but barely. His face is pale, and his breathing is shallow. "Sir? Can you hear me?" Robert's eyes flutter open. "I'm okay. Just need a minute." "You're not okay. I'm calling an ambulance." "No." Robert grabs Danny's arm with surprising strength. "Please. I can't afford an ambulance. Or a hospital. I'll be fine." Danny recognizes the fear in Robert's eyes. It's the same fear he sees in his mother's eyes when she talks about medical bills. The fear of needing help you can't afford. "My car is outside," Danny says. "Let me drive you to the free clinic." Robert wants to refuse. His pride demands that he refuse. But his body has other ideas. He's too sick to walk home. Too weak to argue. Danny helps Robert to his feet. Supports his weight as they walk slowly to the parking lot. Danny's car is a 15-year-old Honda Civic with 200,000 miles and a cracked windshield. But it runs. Danny drives carefully through the snowy streets. Robert sits in the passenger seat, coughing intermittently. The car smells like pizza delivery and determination. "What's your name?" Danny asks. Robert hesitates. For 6 months, he's been avoiding this question. His name is famous for all the wrong reasons. People recognize it from news stories about construction scandals and unpaid workers. "Bob," Robert says finally. It's not technically a lie. "I'm Danny." Robert Miller hears his son's name for the first time. The name he should have known 17 years ago. The name that should have been in his phone contacts and on birthday cards and graduation invitations. The free clinic is busy despite the late hour. Danny helps Robert inside and speaks to the receptionist. Explains that Bob is sick and needs medical attention. The receptionist takes Robert's information without judgment or suspicion. Danny waits while Robert sees a doctor. He sits in a plastic chair under fluorescent lights that buzz like angry wasps. He thinks about his mother, lying in her hospital bed 3 miles away. He thinks about the thousands of dollars in medical bills that pile up like snow. The doctor prescribes antibiotics for Robert's pneumonia. The medication costs $38 at the pharmacy. Robert checks his pockets and finds $12.37. Danny pays for the prescription without being asked. He hands the antibiotic bottle to Robert and pretends not to notice the tears in the older man's eyes. "Thank you," Robert whispers. "Everyone needs help sometimes." Danny drives Robert back to his apartment building, the same building where Danny grew up, where his mother still lives when she's not in the hospital, where medical bills cover the coffee table like defeat. "This is where I live too," Danny says as he parks the car. Robert looks up at the building he once considered beneath his notice, the building where his son has lived his entire life. Small world. Danny helps Robert upstairs to apartment 4C. Robert's apartment is sparse and cold. A mattress on the floor, a folding chair, a hot plate that doesn't work properly. The life of a man who lost everything and is still falling. "Do you have family?" Danny asks. "Someone who can check on you?" Robert shakes his head. "I had a wife. She left when the money ran out." He pauses. "I had a son once, but I never met him." Danny's heart stops. Something about the way Robert says these words. Something about the sadness in his voice. "What happened to your son?" "I was young and scared when I found out his mother was pregnant. I thought I wasn't ready to be a father." Robert sits heavily on his folding chair. "I was wrong about everything. About what mattered. About what made a man successful. About what I thought I deserved." Danny stares at this broken man in his broken apartment. The pieces of a puzzle start fitting together in his mind. The familiar eyes. The familiar voice. The way Robert flinched when Danny said his name. "What was your son's mother's name?" Danny asks quietly. Robert looks up, studies Danny's face as if seeing it clearly for the first time. "Lisa. Lisa Miller." The truth hangs between them like a bridge neither man is ready to cross. "Bob isn't your real name," Danny says. It's not a question. Robert Miller looks at his son, really looks at him, sees Lisa's eyes and chin, sees his own stubborn jaw and determined expression, sees 17 years of questions finally getting answers. "No, it's not." Danny sits on the floor across from his father. Two men who should have known each other their entire lives, meeting as strangers in a cold apartment. "I'm Robert Miller, and you're the son I should have known, the son I should have loved, the son I threw out of my charity gala like garbage." The words land like physical blows. Danny had suspected the truth, but hearing it confirmed still steals his breath. "You called me a homeless con artist." "I know. You had security throw me out. Twice." "I know." Danny stands up, walks to the window, looks out at the city his father used to own. "My mother is dying. She needed $2 million for treatment. You could have saved her life." Robert Miller begins to cry. Not quiet tears. Loud, painful sobs that sound like they're being torn from his chest. "I know. God help me, I know. She defended you." Danny continues, his voice growing stronger. "For 17 years, she defended you. She told me you were probably just scared, that you would have stayed if you'd known what kind of man you could become." Robert rocks back and forth in his chair, the weight of his choices crushing him like gravity. "She was wrong about you," Danny says. "You knew exactly what kind of man you were. That's why you ran." Danny walks toward the door. His father calls out behind him. "Danny, please, don't leave." Danny stops with his hand on the doorknob. "Why? Give me one reason why I should stay." Robert Miller searches for words that don't exist, for apologies that could never be big enough, for explanations that would only sound like excuses. "Because I love you," Robert whispers. "I know I don't have the right to say that. I know I never earned it. But I love you. And I'm sorry. I'm so incredibly sorry." Danny turns around. His father looks smaller than ever in that folding chair, broken and defeated and human. "Love isn't something you say," Danny tells him. "It's something you do. Every day. For 17 years. Through 3 jobs and unpaid bills and hospital visits. That's love." Danny leaves his father alone in apartment 4C. He walks downstairs to apartment 2B, where his mother sleeps with the help of morphine and machines. Danny sits beside his mother's bed. She's been staying at home more often now. The doctors say it makes her more comfortable. Danny knows what that really means. "Mom," Danny whispers. Lisa opens her eyes. Even with the pain medication, She can see that something important has happened to her son. I found him, Mom. I found Robert. Lisa reaches for Danny's hand with fingers that feel like paper. Where? He's been coming to the shelter where I volunteer. He lost everything. His business. His money. His house. He's sick and alone and living upstairs in 4C. Lisa processes this information slowly. How do you feel? It's such a Lisa Miller question. Not what happened or what was said, but how do you feel? Because feelings matter more than facts when someone's heart is breaking. I don't know, Danny admits. Angry. Sad. Confused. He says he loves me. What do you think? I think it's easy to love someone when you need them more than they need you. Lisa smiles despite her pain. That's very wise. They sit in comfortable silence. Mother and son. Partners in survival. Two people who learned that love is action, not words. What are you going to do? Lisa asks. Danny looks out the window toward the apartment upstairs where his father sits alone with his regrets. I don't know yet. The next morning, Danny finds a note under his door, written in shaky handwriting on paper torn from a notebook. Danny, I know I have no right to ask for anything, but if you'll let me, I want to try to be the father I should have been. I want to help take care of your mother. I have nothing left to give except my time and my hands and whatever is left of my heart. If that's enough, I'll be at the shelter tonight, waiting to follow your lead. Robert. Danny reads the note 3 times, folds it carefully, and puts it in his pocket next to the photograph he's carried for 17 years. The photograph of a stranger who turns out to be his father. That evening, Danny arrives at the shelter early. Robert is already there, washing dishes in the kitchen. He wears rubber gloves and an apron. His sleeves are rolled up and his face is focused on his work. Danny watches his father scrub pots with the same intensity he once brought to building an empire. The same determination. The same refusal to accept defeat. The soup needs stirring, Danny says. Robert looks up. I'll stir the soup. They work side by side in the kitchen. Father and son. Two men learning how to build something together instead of tearing things apart. Danny ladles soup while Robert serves bread. They move efficiently around each other. A team that's just discovering how to function. After the shelter closes, Robert follows Danny home. Not to his apartment upstairs, but to Lisa's apartment downstairs. To meet the woman he abandoned 22 years ago. To face the consequences of his choices. Lisa Miller sits in her hospital bed, which Danny moved to the living room so she could see the window. She weighs 93 pounds now. Her hair is gone from chemotherapy that couldn't save her, but might buy time. Robert Miller stands in the doorway like he's afraid to enter. This woman was once young and beautiful and full of dreams. He destroyed those dreams and left her to raise his son alone. Hello, Lisa. Hello, Robert. Lisa's voice carries no anger, no bitterness, only the exhaustion of someone who has fought a battle she cannot win. Robert approaches slowly, sits in the chair that Danny occupies every evening. I'm sorry. I know that's not enough, but I'm sorry. Lisa studies his face, sees the toll that losing everything has taken, sees the man he might have become if he hadn't been so afraid of becoming it. I'm dying, Robert. I know. Danny told me. If I had any money left, I would. Stop. Lisa's voice is gentle but firm. I don't want your money. I never wanted your money. What do you want? Lisa looks at Danny, who stands quietly by the window. Her boy who became a man while she was busy dying. Her son who learned to love through her example and hate through his father's absence. I want you to know your son. I want you to love him the way he deserves to be loved. I want you to be proud of the man he's becoming. Lisa pauses to catch her breath. Speaking requires energy she doesn't have to spare. Danny has worked 3 jobs to try to save my life. He dropped out of school. He gave up his childhood. He did everything a son could do. Everything a father should have done. Robert looks at Danny with new understanding. This isn't just his son. This is a man who sacrificed everything for love. A man who embodies every virtue that Robert abandoned in his pursuit of wealth. I want you to learn from him, Lisa continues. I want you to let him teach you how to be the man you were meant to be. Robert Miller nods through his tears. I'll try. Don't try. Do. Danny doesn't need another person who tries and fails. He needs a father who shows up every day, who works hard, who puts family before everything else. Lisa reaches out and takes Robert's hand. Her touch is gentle despite everything he's done, everything he's failed to do. Promise me, she whispers. Promise me you'll take care of each other. I promise. Lisa Miller dies 3 days later on a Tuesday morning in March. She passes peacefully in her sleep with Danny holding one hand and Robert holding the other. Her last words are, "I love you both." The funeral is small but meaningful. Danny and Robert sit in the front row of a chapel that's seen too many goodbyes. Friends from the shelter attend. Co-workers from Danny's jobs. People whose lives were touched by Lisa Miller's kindness. Danny speaks about his mother's strength and grace. About how she taught him that love is measured by sacrifice, not by words. About how she never gave up hope, even when hope seemed impossible. Robert doesn't speak. He has no right to eulogize a woman he abandoned. But he listens to every word. Learns about the life he missed. The woman he lost. The family he threw away. After the service, Danny and Robert stand beside Lisa's grave. The headstone is simple. Lisa Miller. Beloved mother. She loved well. What happens now? Robert asks. Danny looks at his father. This man who lost everything and found his son. This man who called him a con artist and then discovered he was the one living a lie. Now we learn how to be a family. Robert Miller moves out of apartment 4C and into apartment 2B with his son. They sleep in the same room where Lisa Miller fought her final battle. They keep her pictures on the nightstand and her coffee mug in the kitchen sink. Danny returns to high school to finish his senior year. Robert works construction again, but this time as a laborer instead of a boss. He earns $12 an hour and considers it a privilege. Every evening, they volunteer together at the downtown community shelter. Danny serves soup while Robert washes dishes. They work side by side, feeding people who society has forgotten. Learning that wealth isn't measured by bank accounts, but by the number of lives you touch. Danny graduates valedictorian of his high school class. He earned a full scholarship to study engineering at the state university. His acceptance letter sits on the kitchen table next to his mother's medical bills. Graduation day arrives on a perfect spring morning. Danny wears a cap and gown that cost more than his father earns in a week. Robert wears his only suit, bought from the same thrift store where he shops for everything now. Danny walks across the stage to receive his diploma. The auditorium erupts in applause. But the loudest cheering comes from the front row, where Robert Miller stands with tears streaming down his face. After the ceremony, Danny finds his father in the crowd of families celebrating their children's achievements. "I'm proud of you," Robert says. "I know." Robert hands Danny an envelope. Inside is a check for $50,000. Danny stares at the number in shock. "Where did this come from?" "I sold something I didn't deserve to keep. My Rolex watch. It was the only thing Catherine didn't take in the divorce. I've been saving the money for this moment." Danny looks at the check. It's more money than he's ever seen in one place. Enough to pay for his first year of college without working 3 jobs. This is too much. It's not nearly enough, but it's a start. Danny hugs his father for the first time. Really hugs him. Not the desperate embrace of 2 broken people, but the grateful hug of 2 people who found each other when they needed it most. "Thank you. Thank you for teaching me what it means to be a man. Thank you for showing me what love looks like. Thank you for giving me a second chance I didn't deserve." They stand together in the parking lot of the high school, where Danny learned to dream bigger than his circumstances. Where he learned that intelligence and determination can overcome any obstacle. Where he learned that the best revenge against abandonment is becoming everything your absent parent could never be. Danny Miller is 18 years old. He has a full scholarship to college. He has a father who finally learned how to love him. He has a mother's memory that will guide him for the rest of his life. Most importantly, Danny Miller has learned that family isn't defined by blood or DNA or legal documents. Family is defined by showing up, by working hard, by sacrificing for people who matter more than yourself. Robert Miller is 52 years old. He has $12 an hour and an apartment that doesn't heat properly. He has a son who calls him dad and means it. He has a chance to spend the rest of his life proving that people can change. Robert Miller lost a fortune but found his family. Lost his empire but built a relationship. Lost everything that didn't matter and found the only thing that does. 3 years later, Danny graduates from college with a degree in civil engineering. His thesis project is a plan for affordable housing that prioritizes safety and dignity over profits. The project wins a national award and catches the attention of major construction companies. Danny receives job offers from firms across the country, companies that want his talent and fresh perspective. Companies that offer starting salaries higher than his mother ever dreamed possible. Danny turns them all down. Instead, Danny Miller starts his own construction company, Miller and Son Construction. His first employee is Robert Miller, who brings 3 decades of experience and hard-earned wisdom about what not to do. Their first project is renovating the downtown community shelter. They work for free, using donated materials and volunteer labor. They install proper heating and insulation. They build a commercial kitchen that can feed twice as many people. They create dormitory-style rooms that offer privacy and dignity. The project takes 6 months. Danny and Robert work side by side every evening after their day jobs. Father and son learning each other's strengths and weaknesses, building something together that will last. On the night they finish the renovation, Danny and Robert stand outside the shelter looking at their completed work. The building glows with warm light. Through the windows, they can see volunteers serving dinner to people who need more than food, who need to know that someone cares. Mom would be proud, Danny says. She would be proud of you, Robert corrects. She already knew what kind of man I was. People change, Dad. Robert Miller looks at his son. This man who taught him the difference between success and significance. This man who showed him that the best way to honor the past is to build a better future. Yes, Robert says. Sometimes they do. Danny Miller and Robert Miller walk into the shelter together. They put on aprons and wash their hands. They serve soup to people who need second chances. They offer dignity to people society has discarded. They practice love as a verb instead of just a word. At table 7, a young man sits alone. He's 17 years old and obviously homeless. His clothes are too big and his eyes hold the same desperation that Danny once carried. Danny approaches with a bowl of soup and a gentle smile. First time here? Danny asks. The young man nods. You're safe here. No one will judge you. No one will turn you away. Danny sets down the soup. Everyone deserves help when they need it. The young man looks up with grateful eyes. Thank you. Everyone needs family, Danny continues. Sometimes you find it where you least expect it. Danny Miller walks away, leaving the young man to his meal and his thoughts. Danny doesn't know this stranger's story, doesn't know what circumstances brought him to this shelter on this night. But Danny Miller knows something more important. He knows that love multiplies when you give it away. He knows that the best way to honor the people who saved you is to save someone else. He knows that family isn't about blood or biology or last names. Family is about showing up when someone needs you most. Family is about second chances and third chances and as many chances as it takes. Family is about learning that the poorest person in the world is someone who has never helped another human being. Danny Miller learned these lessons from a mother who died too young and a father who came home too late. He learned that heartbreak can teach you how to love better. He learned that losing everything can help you find what matters most. Most importantly, Danny Miller learned that some stories don't have happy endings. They have hopeful beginnings. They have second chances. They have fathers and sons who discover that love isn't about being perfect. It's about being present. The downtown community shelter serves its last meal at 9 o'clock. Danny and Robert clean tables and stack chairs. They work efficiently, like a team that's been together for years instead of months. At closing time, they walk outside together into the cool night air. The city spreads around them like a promise, full of people who need help and people willing to give it, full of second chances and new beginnings. Danny Miller and Robert Miller drive home to their apartment, to the place where Lisa Miller taught her son that love is the only thing worth building, to the place where a father and son learned that family isn't something you're born into. It's something you choose to create, one day at a time, one act of love at a time. They are not the same men they were 3 years ago. They are not the men they thought they would become. They are better. They are family. They are proof that the most beautiful stories often begin with the words, "I'm sorry," and end with the words, "I love you too."